Yeah, so the steering committee, we do have two positions on the steering committee open. Um, we are trying to the best of our ability, get intergenerational, interracial
Hmm.
members of the steering committee. We understand that, Bayview, is not only Black, there's Latinos, there's a good Asian population. And we want to get as many, as much diversity as possible to really represent Bayview Hunters Point. Yeah, the steering committee was all in favor, and actually one of our members suggested after Murray Harrison passed that we name the entire project the Murray Harrison Air Monitoring Project, and we went ahead and did that in honor of her, because I know that she inspired me while she was living, and she definitely inspires me as she made her transition. And I would only hope that I would be just as fierce as Murray Harrison. And so we definitely take her spirit with us as we continue to do this work. The goal of the project is to get 10 stationary air monitors at least, Bayview Hunters Point. Hope we can get more. And the role of the steering committee is to actually choose those sites. And so we have been looking this entire time, kind of, forming a cohesive team, but also looking at wind patterns. We have to look at wind patterns in Bayview Hunters Point to see where the air flows, where the pollution flows. The stationary air monitors, they measure particulate matter 2.5, which is anything between dust, small particles. But the danger of that is that it's so small that it can actually enter your lungs and get into your respiratory system. So that is what we're focusing on.
That sounds actually really amazing, because for example, like a really personal example, I live right across from MLK at the 5800, and anyone who's on the 3rd Street side of the buildings, like when they go and like open their windows, it's black soot like all along, like their windowsills, right? And it's because Muni's there. On the other side of the building where I live, we get black soot because we are actually close to one co-location facility, right? They have diesel generators that don't go on all the time, right? And they don't add anything to our air quality. But we're sitting there going, look, we have Muni, we have the highway, we have this diesel thing sort of going in, and yet when we were talking to planning about, hey, why is there another one going in, right? Oh, it's under the threshold. But we're sitting there going, I can't just breathe one thing's air, right? It's all about the things coming together. And so we were literally stuck going, WTF around this. We literally can go to our cars, to all this other stuff. And this is just one example in the Bayview, right? So, I'd love to sort of hear more, maybe from you, Anthony, and Michelle, about sort of that historical like perspective, because I know for a fact, right? Just talking a little bit to Michelle, who's told me like about both of you that this has been sort of a fight to get to this point. Can you share like a little bit more about that? Because living in the Bayview, I'm sitting here going, this would make complete sense. Like, why? I almost want to go, why is it taking so long, right? And so, yeah, so I'd love to hear sort of that from you all.
Anthony can definitely speak to how the grant came to be and stuff like that. I just came on as the coordinator in January, so I don't know the necessary history of like how the the grant happened and what was needed to even like push for that. However, I was completely shocked that there is only one air monitor in the whole of San Francisco in general.
Oh,
Um, yes, um, that completely blew my mind, and it still blows my mind that there's no air monitors in Bayview at all. Um, and even with that one air monitor, some of the challenges that we have had while I've been on this project is that the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, BACMID, will not let anybody use that air monitor. So they will not give us access to calibrate or co-locate our air monitors to that air monitor.
why?
That is the $1,000,000 question.
I have their bullshit answer. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I need to stop cursing. But no, I have the official answer. I should not call it the official answer to that question is, in fact, if they allowed us to calibrate against that machine, they would have to allow body to. So this is the federally supplied reference monitor for the Bay Area. In other words, there is one reference monitor for the entire 9 counties of the Bay Area, and it is in that dog patch mission corridor. And they don't allow anybody access to it, because if they did, they would have to allow all the community organizations in the Bay Area access to it. Why is there only one in the entire Bay Area that all air quality readings are measured off of? Which, after this whistleblower thing that's going on with BACMID right now, we know that it's not the only one, but it is the official reference. So that's that. Sorry, keep going, Dalila. I did know the answer to that one.
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it's, it's challenging when, and from my perspective, just working on this for about 6 months, it's challenging when, yes, we do get this opportunity to do this project. However, resources are not accessible to do so.
Interesting.
If I can interject here, I'm going to do something that I normally don't do and give it a little dose of optimism here.
Yes.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Working with the public and around these important matters. And one thing that's always the same is just how baffled we are with the oversight, the neglect, the inequities around protecting the public health and wellness of our neighborhood. And Dalila, both you and Michelle really highlighted the fact that this is a known issue. Data has been collected for decades, and it usually has been provided by, in particular, residents and citizens. So,
Right.
one of the earlier slides that was brought up was it was a great picture, just looking at the juxtaposition of all the different types of land uses in our neighborhood. Urbanized land, residential, industrial, parklands, and this is one of the only areas in our beautiful 7x7 that you see these just smashed together. And where it really has impacted our neighborhood and of course residents the most is certain industrial sites. At one point, over I would say well over 320 was registered, as well as the remaining unregulated and unregistered that you were talking about, Anietie. It's how do we know what's going on? How does one happen and then 10 more happen? So that's what I'm talking about, inequity. But I want to draw us back to that picture, and we saw that power plant. We understood it stood there for 80 years, since the 20s. and the neighborhood, righteously, organized by leadership, both individuals that we mentioned earlier today, and as well as folks who just said enough is enough. So we were successful in the mid 2000s to decommission that power plant, which was only one of those 300 plus sites with registered toxins in the neighborhood. And yet that was because there was an effort there of a bucket brigade, literally, folks coming out, partnering with other environmental organizations that might have a little bit more technical warehouse know-how, such as more of a Bay Area based, and we pulled together to actually collect data in rudimentary sampling. And so where I said I'm going to do some kind of a little bit out of my character and be optimistic, to know that's where we came from putting, our lives on the line, collecting that data, being exposed in the front lines, being a frontline community. That's all we have done. So where we've kind of evolved to say, okay, well, we understand there's been some opening of funding through these entities, such as we're throwing around terms like BACMed, which is Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And then there's the larger statewide, we can call them, entities that oversee the health, the air quality, which is California Air Resource Board. So being that there's sometimes up to millions of dollars that's afforded for emissions reductions, what is the benefit at the community level? So yeah, this project has kind of been born in the last 5 years or so, but it has been built on the pressure and all that we've advocated over the last decades around saying data should be in the hands of the community. And then once we do collect it and understand it more, then we understand what we can do to not only reverse it and reduce it, but here's the other R, which is reparations. Because for too long we have been impacted by these burdens, and by this project will not only daylight those impacts and what they are, and something that we call in pollution sciences, where's the point sources of these? And when we can't find them, we understand that we can now rule out certain instances. So whether it's a long-term history or the legacy that has helped us create this project today, we need much more than that to bring it forward, knowing that we're just kind of scratching the surface, and it took about roughly 2 decades worth of advocating to these governmental agencies that enough is enough. So that's shocking to me, and by no means, Michelle, I understand your fury and rage, and that's why just how personal it is to us to understand that how can this happen when we've been saying the same thing. So I want to pass.
No, you're absolutely right. That's like, we do need to highlight our wins, because we have been making some great wins. And you brought in, I think, the history that Anietie was looking at in terms of the cumulative impacts report and the toxics indexes, and how we leverage those community efforts to actually get some movement going to close down some PG&E plants, some other plants around the neighborhood, right? And can you talk a little bit more about Ledge's role in the PG&E plant and maybe the Eco Center as well?
Yeah, I mean, real briefly, because I know I've been saying a few things, but it's really, we're talking a lot about shutting down, and really, I think something that we all really care about is how do we build up, what is generative out of this project?
Yeah.
And something that it is generating is the actual oversight of the new project. Something that I'm sure with other One Bayview topics that we all should be talking about is how we're living through the largest redevelopment since the early 1900s, even more than the 1950s in the Fillmore. The largest redevelopment is impacting our shoreline, our neighborhood, from, of course, the old ballpark to the new ballpark, as you always hear me say. And as someone who grew up going to Giants games, I couldn't afford the 49ers games, but going to Giants games and knowing that, you know, things disappear in a blink of an eye and sometimes get built in a blink of an eye.